There we go. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Health Energy Podcast. Our guest this morning is Cherie Lindberg. And Cherie, welcome. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And Rami and Jessica, I'm glad to see you as always.
Hello.
Hi.
And I'm going to read Cherie's biography so you can know all more about her. Cherie Lindberg has a Ph.D. in behavioral health with the topic of how brain spotting can help people get an learned, secure attachment.
Mhm.
She is a seasoned transformational coach, speaker, consultant, and psychotherapist. With over 20 years of experience in complex trauma, she now champions post traumatic growth and flourishing. Cherie empowers healers, couples, and leaders to unlock their unique gifts and create lasting impact in the world. Her website is cherrielindberg.com, and the link is below. She also has her own YouTube channel, and that link is below for you all to check out. And Cherie, again, thank you for being here. And I'd love to know your story, how you came to do the work you do, and any part of your life leading up to that you'd like to share.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. Nice meeting everyone, and good morning. And like many folks that turn to healing, I experienced trauma as a young child myself, and was very empathic, a very sensitive child, and growing up very empathic to other people's feelings and could read the room, walking into a room. And basically from there, just found that's where my talents were, and decided to go into counseling. Didn't really realize at the time that I was going into counseling because I too needed healing. But that was the beginning of my journey into working on my own healing and then holding space for other people to come and heal. And I specialized in trauma for over 20 years, working in, fields where, things you don't really want to talk about because it's so horrific. But I worked with a lot of really deep, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and really enjoyed the work that I did. And then 3 years ago, I had my best friend from elementary school passed away from breast cancer. And it was actually the very next day that my brain said to me, okay, we're done working in the trenches of trauma. We're going to help people flourish and thrive and understand post-traumatic growth more. And so I work with a lot of therapists, business owners, couples who maybe have experienced trauma, but they've done a lot of personal work on the inside, and they're still wanting to experience thriving, understand what that means, understand flourishing. A lot of folks that work on themselves, and I would be one of them as well. I mean, we typically teach what we need to learn ourselves, right? How do I flourish? How do I let joy back in? Excuse me. And so these are the things that I've been doing for the last 3 years. And I teach, I go around and I teach a process called Brainspotting. And Brainspotting can be used for trauma treatment, but it can also be used for performance enhancement. And so right now I'm using it for performance enhancement for folks that maybe they have a goal they want to complete for themselves or their relationship, but something keeps getting in the way. And so we can use Brainspotting and parts work, and I can explain what that is if you'd like, to work on any blocks that they're experiencing. Because typically when we experience blocks, it's from our upbringing, old programming, old narratives inside that are getting in the way of us leading our best life now.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
yes, I love to hear more. And right before we go, I ask you a question that I had. I wanted to remind people to please like and subscribe to help us grow. And but yes, now when you say parts work, what comes to my mind, I don't know if this is it or not, would be what I would call soul retrieval. where we have fragmented parts of
Interesting.
ourselves, but your parts work might be totally different.
Well, it really depends on whose perception we're working with here, right? So what's out there right now, internal family systems, or IFS, is one of the popular ways of thinking of parts work. You can also talk about ego state work. And in Brainspotting, how we think about it is maladaptive files inside of our brain that are frozen from old traumas, old ways of knowing. And so they would be frozen in like a file. Think about like a Microsoft Word document file. So maybe I've had these experiences as a child, and my file, my maladaptive file, is I don't matter. And so those files typically start very, very young at our age, and we don't even realize till we become an adult, where we're bumping up against them over and over again, that they're still alive inside of us, and they get in the way of us achieving our goals. And so in Brainspotting, we can go back and reprocess those files to a new normal. I jokingly say to people, we're going to upgrade you inside from a VHS tape to a Blu-ray DVD. So that's kind of how I help people understand, because a lot of times our old narratives, habits, behaviors of how we adapted and survived when we were younger, we still try to use those. We don't update them. We try to use those in our adulthood too. So what I do with folks is help them update and upgrade.
Very good. Yes, that reminded me. I do biofield tuning,
Oh, yeah.
and one of my someone that came to me for sessions, she did the brain spotting work. So I traded a session with her so I could experience it
Cool.
before our session. And we
Mhm.
were both, since she knew both of them, had done, sessions with me plus hers, we were both kind of excited at how
Mhm.
similar, because she used the word files and things.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
really, that's very similar to the biofield work. We find the mind is in the biofield around us, all those memories, all those patterns that are
Yes.
stuck in the flow of
Mhm.
the light waves, right? So we
Mhm.
find those files or those pockets, we call them pockets in the
Mhm.
biofield, and clear them with sound therapy and
Yes.
intention. It's
Yes, I have the tuning forks myself. I just haven't had a chance to
okay.
get the training because I find it very fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is.
Mhm.
Ramey also experienced some brain spotting sessions, I believe,
Wonderful.
right, Ramey?
Mm, Yeah, yes, I did. I went to a a counselor,
Mhm.
and he offered it, and we did it, and it was good. Uh, Relation to parts, I think Jessica knows this. We're both NLP practitioners,
Mhm.
and there is a training, and there's a part in the training called parts.
Mm.
And so that would mean like a part of me wants to go on a diet, but a part of me wants to eat the cake.
Yes.
So we would access the part that wants to be healthy. And there's
Mhm.
always a reason that part is doing that is for attention, for um, um, I don't know what attention comes to mind, but that we break it down and we figure out what that part really wants, and
Mhm.
it always comes to love, but it takes
Mhm.
a while to break it down because
Mhm.
most people don't really just say I want love,
Right.
right?
Right.
But the part of me that wants acknowledgement, acceptance, what do I really want? And I
Mhm.
won't express it when I'm in conversation or in a relationship. So if you went to an NLP practitioner, we can work on that part.
Mhm.
And is that kind of like what
Yeah, same thing in brain spotting. We just maybe, like all of these tools are different ways of accessing what we're all talking about. And it
Mhm.
depends on the person. Like some people might need this method, some people might need a different method. So it's really about accessing that part of themselves because
Mhm.
they're frozen in time and space. It's how
Right.
we've adapted to survive. So oftentimes I work with people where they have a developmentally frozen file at age 8, right? So we go in there and we listen to the story of the part, just like what you're saying, and build a relationship with the part, and then
Right.
figure out what its most fundamental need is. Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, and when we're young, and since we don't know any better, we just maybe cut that part out.
Yes.
And then you don't even know you're really wanting love. So
Right.
you go ahead and eat. You go ahead
Mhm.
and do whatever you
Right.
want to satisfy that need. But once you bring it to light, like the work that we do, you
Mhm.
can heal that part because it's just old and we
Mhm.
didn't know any better.
Right.
And then move on and create a new part.
Right. And kind of to your point, Carla, some people might see that as soul retrieval too, depending upon how deep you take it, right? Because
Yeah.
when we come into this world, in order to survive here, we do have to split. We have to adapt. We have to like put our parts that are not socially acceptable away, right? And
Right.
so as we get older, bringing them in, giving them love, meeting them where they're at, and meeting their needs can help with all the healing on the inside.
Right. Yeah. I often find it in, you have the pockets, and then sometimes, not all the times, like not all the pockets have fragmented self, right? They're
Mhm.
just the blocks in the way, right? But then others, really, like you said, deeper is that piece of consciousness that still thinks she's 3 years old,
Mhm. Mhm.
or whatever. Yeah.
Well, if we add in our ancestral stuff that we're carrying, then it gets even more complicated.
Yes, it does. I
Yeah.
deal with that every day.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
So, f- would you be able to explain more of like just the process of like how you do it or whatever? I mean, just to me, brain spotting, also that term brings up that psychoanalyst or psychotherapy type thing
Mhm.
of where you see the ink splots, and you're
Mhm.
supposed to describe it. I mean, and I
Mhm.
know that's not what you're talking about, but
Right.
just in case anyone else kind of has an
Sure.
analogy with the word,
Sure.
maybe you could explain.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know that the reason we call brain spotting a psychotherapy is because a psychotherapist discovered it. Like if a chiropractor discovered it, I don't know if we'd be having this conversation, right? So he
Right.
just happened to come across it working with his clients. And so we have a tagline that we say, where you look affects how you feel. And we know from brain neuroscience that through the retina of the eye, it connects to our deeper brain, our subcortical brain. And so if I'm thinking of something that bothers me, let's say there's a trauma that when I bring it up, I get all dysregulated in my body. I can help the client find a spot in their field of vision. Let's say it's this. This is one of our tools we use as a pointer. So let's say that spot is right here. When I look at that spot, it corresponds with a feeling in my body when I'm thinking of that trauma. So let's say I feel panicky in my chest. So I can look at this spot, think of the memory, okay? And I'm in the file in my brain. So I'm looking out to find the file in.
Hmm.
And now I am processing anything that's in that file. So thoughts, images, body sensations related to that trauma. So I'm reprocessing it and I can reconsolidate the memory to a new normal. Typically, when I first start processing lots of negative experiences, fear, anger, body sensations, right? As I'm processing and I'm healing, it just naturally starts to correct itself where my brain starts to say, I'm not there anymore. I can let this go now. As an example, positive affirmations start to come at the end, and then I don't have any emotional charge of the memory once it is fully released out of my body. So that's how that works.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for explaining that. Yeah.
Sure.
Right. So, I noticed, in your work, like on your videos or on your
Mhm.
website, I can't remember, that you had um, this had tied in with like spirituality
Mhm.
and intuition. Could you
Yeah.
can you
Yeah.
explain? I mean, I love to talk. I could talk about spirituality and intuition all day long.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
to me, those how does that tie into brain spotting?
Well, what you find, I've been doing this since 2010. So what I have found is because brain spotting is at the core of our subcortical brain, and Antonio Damasio talks about this, that is the seat of our soul, a seat of spirituality and creativity. And we really believe in brain spotting. We're getting access to that area of the brain. And what I have found is as I am working with folks in their subcortical brain and they're reprocessing all these old memories, creativity starts to open up. They start to have these spiritual experiences and they just start to expand into their true essence of who they really are. And it's a beautiful thing. And so a colleague and I, and this happened after I had an experience, and I'll share that in a second. We're having people come to us all the time and they're saying, okay, my relatives that have passed on are in the room with me, and they're drawing them in during their processing. They're starting to see Jesus or God or other spiritual figures as they're processing. And even the healers themselves are having these very intuitive experiences. And what we really believe what is happening is we are naturally intuitive as human beings, but it's been programmed out of us, because people see it as too woo-woo or whatever. That's the term, unfortunately, where they dismiss our intuitive powers that we all have. And we want to put the science in the woo. So we have done a lot of research on spirituality and science. And what we have found is that, and this is in the Awakened Brain book, and she's a researcher from Stanford, and I'm spacing her name right now, but she did research on science and spirituality, and she found that even when you believe in a power greater than yourself, and it doesn't matter what your belief is, that is an 80% buffer to depression. 80%, that's pretty high. So why are we not talking about this in the mental health field? I think it's an important aspect to be asking our clients, do they have a belief in a power greater than themselves? So we've taken it into a training for practitioners so that what we can do is we have found our clients can find a God spot where they feel connected to their higher power, whatever their higher power is. And then they can bring that and embody that feeling inside their body, which helps them with any negative experience or any trauma that they've gone through. We've had people speak to lost loved ones, find a spot where they feel the most connected to the lost loved one. And lots of healing can take place through doing brain spotting with a lost loved one. So we're not sure where this is going to take us, but more and more people are having these experiences and finding them very healing. And so we wanted to have a place to be able to talk about them and teach about them.
Yeah, that sounds neat. Now, you said that was the subcortical
Yes.
part of the brain. Now, what about, often the pineal or pineal, however you pronounce it, is often thought to be the center of intuition. And I know it's been found scientifically, again, with the pineal gland, that it becomes calcified due to fluoride in the water, or EMFs become, causing problems, right, with the electromagnetic waves that our eyes, it would come through our eyes and our breath, right, directly into our head. So how does that compare, do you think, with the subcortical?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I wouldn't really be able to answer that fully because we don't have research to know how it's being impacted. But it would make sense that it is. The brain is very, very complex, and I'm minimizing by just even saying subcortical because there's so many parts of the brain that are in the subcortical, right? So we have the caudate nucleus, we have superior colliculi, we have all these big wig names that none of us know, exactly what they mean. What we understand from brain spotting at this point, which I think is very minimal, we've learned from a brain researcher out in Croatia. His name is Damir Del Monte. And we know that the retina we started out as a child as a neural tube, and the retina, it came out of an outgrowth of back of the brain cells. And this tube is connected to the superior colliculi, which is the first orienter to danger. So that lights up when we have a trauma. And when we do brain spotting, we know that we're getting access to the superior colliculi again, and to the amygdala, to what we call the allocortex, that's European terms, basically the cortex of the limbic system. And so we know we're getting connected to all those parts. But in terms of how the pineal gland fits into that, really great question. Would love to be able to do an independent study on that. So if anybody is independently wealthy out there that has a lot of money for a study, look me up, because I would absolutely love to be able to look at what's going on in the brain during a brain spotting session to see if we're having any impact on the pineal gland as well.
Yeah. Shoot, my thought just escaped me.
That's okay.
I was going to mention, I'm assuming you're probably familiar with Joe Dispenza's work.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Would be a good one for his team to take on.
Mm-hmm.
Watching the brain while you do studying.
I just love neuroscience. And I think the more we learn, the more all these things that we think are woo-woo, we can bring them into scientific terms to normalize what we're all experiencing. So I'm glad that he's speaking to it, because it's happening more and more. And I think in our counseling offices or in our coaching offices, or anyone that is a healer, what we are all talking about happens every single day. This might be new for people, but this happens all the time. And in fact, why I went into brain spotting and spirituality was after having a spiritual experience myself. So my friend that I told you that passed away from breast cancer, it happened during a training that I was teaching, and I just happened to be on my lunch hour. And her husband contacted me and said, I don't know, if she's passed, or, they had to come and get her. She's at the hospital. And she showed up right here on my right side. Her face, her full body. And of course, that scared me. And I had a colleague that was on Zoom with me when that happened. And I said, I'm seeing her right now. And she's like, well, why don't we brain spot her with her? And I said, okay. And so I looked over here. I was able to talk to her. I was able to say goodbye. I was able to tell her how much I loved her. She told me she wanted this to happen this way so that her family didn't suffer. I mean, there was lots of things that she said to me, and it was an amazing experience. I could smell her. I felt like I was hugging her. And because of that, I really feel that helped me with my grief. It's not that I didn't grieve, and I still grieve. I miss her terribly. We used to talk every Saturday. But I know I still have access to her. And this has helped a lot of people that I've worked with know that there's life after death, for folks that believe that concept.
So that's really interesting. To me, I had, when I, within a week after I had taken my biofield tuning training, I started experiencing, like you talked, I started seeing, my grandpa was the first one, and then other orbs of light, as I call it, that were already in the oneness. And then I branched out and started working with my grandfather and clearing his energy in me. And so then I started clearing other ancestors' energy, and all of them were present. I mean, I could talk to all of them. And more recently in a session, a client's father had just passed, and she had questions for him. And so otherwise I haven't considered myself a medium, or but it was like he was there, she had questions, so I was the go-between, because she couldn't see him but I could. And so I relayed all his answers to her and stuff. So then something in, again, that spiritual awakening for me, it would have been with sound, but also with just intention, the desire, the huge desire, right, to do whatever it took to heal me, but to really fully live, or the word, I guess, embody, plunge myself into the healing work and the aspect of the sound therapy. And so that's so similar to what you experienced.
Yes, I think we each get led to a healing method, that works for us. And I really believe it's important to have as many tools in our toolbox as possible, because our clients need different tools, right? And I really agree with what you're saying. And I think sound is the new research is starting to come out. There's chi.org is it's collective healing initiative, I believe, or conscious healing initiative. They're doing a lot of research on sound, on chanting, like all these ancient traditions that have been around for a very long time. And now we're acting like, oh, it's the new thing, right? This has been a healing tool for a very long time. It's just now starting to hit mainstream. And energy work is, people are starting to be more open to the idea of these different methods that have been around for a very long time. And they're absolutely beautiful. And it all leads, what Rami was saying, it all leads back to love. I mean, we all need more love in our lives. That's what it leads back to.
Yeah, that's what I see. The name of my business is Ancestral River. It's also the name of streams of energy in our biofield next to our bodies that contain DNA information from the ancestors.
Beautiful.
But so even though the name applies to the DNA information, to me, that's what it boils down to. It's that love, that connection of love with source that connects us throughout, from the beginning of time, not just with our ancestors, but with everyone, with the universe.
It's so important. And, interestingly, I have worked with, clearing things in my life since I was 26 years old. And I'm 56 now. So I've been doing this a while. And I remember thinking, oh, here's my list. And when I get this list done, I'll be good. And I'm like, oh, now I realize I'm going to be doing this for a very long time. Right.
I hear you.
Yeah. So just so everybody knows, like, this is, once you choose the path, you're on the path. Right. Yeah. But what I've just realized, like in the last year, is I kept trying to heal some of the energy with my parents and more my family of origin. I've been working on that very long time, and that energy still was not clearing. And so I realized, oh, I have to go back to the great grandparents and the grandparents. And so I've been starting to do that work now. And yeah, that's taking on a whole new life here, where there's just so much trauma in my history, so much in the ancestry. And I've spent a lot of my life saying, not me, not me. And I know now I'm one of them. And I know a lot of people are here for the same reason I am, is we're clearing it. We're clearing it. Our soul is here to clear it. We came here to decide we're doing it differently. We're not going to follow the trauma path, right? And sometimes we're the alien or the oddball in our family because we're the only one that feels it. And we're the only one that knows that it's there, right? So, but what I have found is just by working with my grandparents, which has been very hard because of some of the choices that they made to forgive, because there's been such consequences. But in clearing that, all of a sudden, automatically the energy has eased with my parents. So it's very interesting. And this is where, people might be listening and going, what in the heck is she talking about? And it really is a thing. I mean, the research is starting to show epigenetics, that we carry this energy in our cells, like that. I was inside my mom, which was inside my grandma, right from the very, beginning when she came on this earth. So there's lots of research on epigenetics. And when I'm working with people during Brainspotting, oftentimes they discover this isn't even my burden to carry, but I'm feeling it in my body. This isn't mine. Oh, wait a minute. This is my great grandmother's, right? Or great grandfather's, whatever. And we clear that. They have an experience and we clear that. And then all of a sudden their life takes on a different energy level, shape, all those kinds of things. So I know that that's probably true for the work that you do as well.
Yeah, it's just awesome to hear it from a different perspective. And but exactly after I had done my first session with my grandfather to clear his energy in me, because he came to me and said, I want to go to the oneness and I need your help. And it was like, well, this is still this way to me, right? I had all these old beliefs from, I was no longer in the churches, but that was my core, part of what made me up. And so that was like, it was scary. But it was like, I loved my grandpa, so I wanted to help him. And so, okay. And then it was like, it was huge. It was huge what I cleared in him in a session. And it was like, wow, if that's all in me, I have to clear all my ancestors to clear me. So I systematically went through back to 4 to 5 generations back to my grandfather's grandfathers, things to find it. And it was so curious to find out, beside clearing for both of us, to find out what was it, what part of their life, what did they struggle with that I struggle with, and build the bond and rapport as I was able to clear for them. I mean, it's beautiful work. It's exciting. To think we're not clearing just ourselves, right? We're clearing back generations and really throughout time, right? And so, and down to our descendants, I see subtle changes in my children, and they're growing. If I would have started this work when they were little, what more change it would be, right? But because they were already grown when I started, I'm clearing all the backlog, but they won't see huge progress until they take up their own journey. But you see shifts in the family. You see some shifts in them, definitely. And it helps their lives now. But it's exciting work.
It is. I have 2 grown sons, and they just think I'm weird. And it's like, it's okay. You can think I'm weird. But I talk openly about this. So they're very familiar. And regardless of whether they know it or not, sometimes they feed me back some of my own words, and I'm like, hee. Something's getting in there,
Right. Right. So now what I've been able to do also is to say, like I have 2 boys, right? And so I started, I don't know, just kind of like with the ancestor, I've started connecting with their spirit, not just not their body. I mean, their mind doesn't know that I'm doing it, right? And but because we're all spirit and all our information is everywhere in the light waves, it's right. We can focus on an individual's with our intention, and it's especially when it's a descendant, right? Or our mothers that we would, or fathers that we're closest with. But I see shifts in how their spirit, and how their mind is starting to
Mhm.
take on these questions, and of course their mind in their own life, they have no idea. Right.
Right. It's
But
like
it's
working
like,
with their higher consciousness. Yes.
yes, but I
Mhm.
feel that shift, and it's like I don't do anything to change, I'm
Mhm.
not stepping in where I shouldn't step in, but
Mhm.
just holding that intention that they connect with their higher self, basically, or
Mhm.
with God,
Mhm.
is all it takes to get their um, ignite that flow of energy between
Mhm.
them and their God or higher self.
Yeah.
Uh, is
Agreed.
my intention because I'm in them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's
I
it's
don't.
it's
It's exciting.
beautiful. Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful thing, and I wish more people could connect so that they could have relief and understanding that. And if you would have talked to me 15 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to have this conversation because of where I was at, in my life, because I was very spiritual as a child. And then I didn't realize, oh, people don't talk to God every day. Oh, people don't see ghosts every day. And then they're all like, well, you're really strange and weird. So I just shut all of that down and became an academic and went and got my degrees so that I would look normal and I would look like I knew what I was talking about. And like I said, 3 years ago, that door got kicked wide open again. And it was percolating before that, but with Kim's passing and her talking to me, it was just like, whoa. It was a real kicking it wide open and looking at what was possible again versus what I, concretely could see or know. This was like, there's so much out there that we can't see and it's still real, right? But our science doesn't look at it that way.
Hasn't yet observed it.
Right. That's a good way of putting it. Yes.
But we don't need it to because we know it's there.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, I'm not going to let that stop me. And I'll say I have a practice based on evidence. These are all my clients' stories. That's evidence enough for me.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And even if it's not for clients, if it's what we have experienced, it should be real enough for us too.
Sure.
It should be enough. I mean, I haven't always felt that way either.
Right.
um,
Right. Well, it takes some time to get confident, I mean, yeah, I think for many, many years, listening to what others say, letting them influence, and I'm finally at a point where I'm confident in who I am. I mean, it took 56 years, but finally have gotten to this point. And it's okay if you don't agree with me. It's okay if you have a different point of view. I know what I know, and I know what I know to be true. And that's what, you have a right to your opinion. And that feels really good because for many, many years, the self-doubt or the fear of being rejected or anything like really influenced my choices. And I'm not there anymore. And it feels really good. And I really like to mentor young women to help them get to that place and help them build, confidence, because we all have gifts to bring. And we need as many people out there to shine their light as possible with the climate that we have in this world. Like, I just want to give back and give my legacy as much as possible so that the next generation can heal and share their truth as well.
yeah.
Cherie, did you say you work with professionals or business people specifically?
Yes.
In that, do you go back into their personal life, or do you work kind of more specifically in their business blocks? What does that look like for working with a
Yeah, it really depends on when they come to me, what they need. So here's an example of what I just worked on recently with a business owner. They own their own business. They want it to thrive, but they're afraid of being seen and heard. And they're they're scared of putting their truth out there. So we've been doing brain spotting and parts coaching to help them recognize what that is. And it's a younger part that was humiliated in front of the classroom when they were like, in 3rd grade. And so we're clearing that stuff so that they can do YouTube videos and that they can get out there and get on a podcast and share their knowledge. So that would be an example of where they're coming to me and saying, I can't fulfill my marketing plan because I'm afraid. And so that would be an example of the work we would do.
That is awesome. That is great.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, watching people thrive is so exciting, right? Seeing them rise, seeing them, and I'm like, you can do this. And they're like, really? I'm like, yes, you can do this. Let me help you. Let me support you. And then watching the little, eagle leave the nest. I love watching that happen. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I was wondering too, I had recently heard of pearl powder, and your work with the eyes and the retina, I think would really, really tie in. This type of powder is nutrition for the eyes.
Interesting.
And contains several things. I think it contains pearl powder itself, but I think it contains other things. And I guess the pearl powder is like the DNA of the pearl or whatever is, from what I was hearing, was very similar to, or how it worked in rejuvenating or coating the pearl was very similar to how something worked in us. I'm very poor
Very
at
interesting.
describing. Jessica probably it can explain it better, but it was from the Elevate Cultivate podcast. I learned from him. He does the electroculture. I do a lot of gardening, and so I was learning electroculture through him, where you wrap the wooden poles in copper wire to enhance the energy flow in the garden through the soil and things. And but so he's selling this pearl powder. Jessica, you seemed familiar with pearl powder. Have you tried that, or do you know more about it?
Yeah, I did. I was using it for a while, and my eyes weren't bad. I felt just a slight difference in them. I used it for probably about 3-4 months, and then recently, or a few months ago, ran out, and now my eyes have gotten worse.
Okay.
So I think there's a lot of things to do. There's always different contributing factors, but I think just the minerals and the different things in the pearl powder, are very good for the eyes. So of course there's a lot to do with, yes, it's connected to the brain. So you can specifically work on the brain probably and improve your eyesight, or you can work from the outside in, using pearl powder, either like as a, mixing it with water and, putting it on your eyes, or just taking the capsules.
I might need to investigate.
Yeah.
The website is Elevate Cultivate.
Okay.
I don't remember his name. Do you, Jessica? Do you
Cultivate? Remember? It's actually, Cultivate Elevate, and it's Matt Roski. Yeah, Matt Roski.
Okay.
Yeah, he's done a lot of good research, and
that's great. I mean, our eyes have so many reflexes in them. And there's so many ways, again, in Brainspotting, we access, the files. And it's also a way into our physiology. So if we're holding something in our physiology, we can find it through our eyes. So it's interesting, of course, to study something that maybe improves the eyes. Maybe it will help get access to something. Who knows?
I've tried a number of things through the past years because I'm in my early 60s, and I don't know. These are just reading glasses, but I've got to the point where I used to be, farsighted, and I can't see too far anymore, and I can't see real close anymore. But so I've been trying a number of things because I really think it's reversible. it should be healable, just like all parts of our bodies are. And
Mhm.
so I've tried a number of things for a year at a time. So I tried herbs, because I grow herbs and stuff. So I did Dr. Christopher's thing, and I probably didn't do it like it was called for. It's a eye rinse, as well as taking in internally the herbs. But so the least the way, as much as I was doing it for the length of time I did it, I didn't notice anything. And then I went to sun gazing. So you do that just at the low angle in the morning and the low angle in the evening, when it's at the, I wouldn't say weakest, but not going to overpower and hurt
Mhm.
our eyes,
Mhm.
right? And I found I really liked that, but again, I didn't, in the length of time I did it, I didn't notice a difference in my eyesight. And then I had tried more recently urine therapy for my eyes, and I haven't noticed anything on that too. Now, I think they've all kept me from getting worse.
Mhm.
I haven't noticed a lot of progressive worseness in several years, but so I'm going to order the pearl powder to try it. But the sun, I would think, talking about spirituality and the connection with the universe and our eyes, sun gazing has to be really powerful for inner growth, just like it is for eye healing or
Mhm.
physical healing. I
Mhm.
know a lot of people do it. I haven't studied it greatly.
Yeah, I
Just
haven't either. I mean, it's fascinating. I know for myself that I feel much more connected to spirit when I'm looking out at nature and there's sun versus gray on gray. So I'd be very interested to look at that information and kind of see what they're saying about it for sure. And the wonderful part about all these things that we're talking about is that these are natural things that we can do to help ourselves heal, to help ourselves connect and feel the love that we're all talking about. And I love that. Instead of a pill or more medication or whatever, that there's a lot of natural things that we can do and bring into our life to feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure. Um, I was wondering too, I had another question on, well, I guess you've kind of explained it, but in one part on your website had talked about manifesting intentions.
Mhm.
So was that like you were talking about with the person that wanted to widen or develop their business, the work
Mhm.
you were doing
Mhm.
with it?
Yeah, part of our workshop training that we train therapists, to help with clients that want to learn to manifest. There's lots of books that have just come out. Mind Magic by James Doty is one of them. The Source is another, and then the Neuroscience of Manifesting. And so what they talk about is daily habits of practice, like vision board, guided visualizations. I do brain spotting every morning. I come down to this is my office in my house, and I have a window, and I have brain spots. So I got some favorite brain spots here that I connect to spirit every day. And I'm thinking about what is next in my career, what it is that I want to do. I have a vision board for it, and I brain spot on it. And it's like building this internal muscle in our brain. And the more that we do that, the more the brain will hyper focus on opportunities to make that happen. So there's lots of neuroscience behind manifesting. Again, the word manifesting, everybody goes, oh, that's woo woo, kinds of things. And really, it is based on neuroscience that you can create habits inside your brain where it hyper focuses and then will keep your attention on opportunities that are going to connect to your ultimate goal. So that's what we talk about, is how to cultivate daily habits so that you can manifest your intention of whatever it is you want. Mhm.
I like the idea. I meditate daily,
Yeah.
or as often as fits in my schedule, which I try to
Mhm.
make it daily. But usually, of course, my eyes are closed just because it's easier to concentrate or focus. But I'm going to try like you said, looking around my
Mhm.
room and
Mhm.
finding those spots, focusing on what I'm
Yep.
wanting to manifest. So I'll
Yep.
I'll do that.
Yeah,
I'll try.
give it a try.
I'll let you know.
I look at future Cherie and I'm like, okay, tell me what it is I need to know. And I get downloads of like, here's some creative ideas of how to expand your business. I mean, this is what I've been doing the last 12 years. So
I just realized I've been pronouncing your name wrong, though. Cherie, it should be Cherie.
it's fine. Cherie. I go by Cherie, but a lot of people say Sherry, Cherry, Cherie. So no worries.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I should
No
have
worries.
asked that to start with. Yeah.
Mhm.
But thank you for saying. I love to address people how they want their name pronounced.
Mhm.
So
Thank
thank you.
you for that, Carla. Yeah, it's very nice meeting everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Great. I have one more question.
Sure.
You also on somewhere I saw on your website, safe and sound protocol.
Yes. Yes. So that is based on polyvagal theory, and it is filtered music. And what it does is it helps the autonomic nervous system repattern. So they started out with this music, using it with young children that were autistic, and it helped them with their meltdowns. And now what they've done with Deb Dana studying polyvagal theory and using it a lot in the counseling field, they've been using it with folks that have sensory integration issues, post-traumatic stress disorder. And I just participated in a study with rest and restore protocol, which will be coming out. And basically you listen to this filtered music and it helps anxiety. It helps with sleep. It's pretty amazing. So the FDA categorizes it as a vagus nerve stimulator, which again, our vagus nerve is, a big part of our system and how it works and so forth. So yeah, it's again, a natural way for folks to work on themselves, to manage stress, manage anxiety, and so forth.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that's so, Cherie, I've really, really enjoyed visiting with you this morning.
Yeah, very nice meeting all of you.
Is there anything you'd like to end with or to tell people about before we close?
I'll just add that, I love doing one-on-one coaching for folks, and I also do relationship coaching. So all these things that I talked about today, I teach couples how to co-regulate and hold space for each other so that they can deepen their connection. And that is one of my favorite things to work on as well, is to save marriages, relationships and friendships, so that we can stay connected even when we have conflict, because I think that's one of our biggest problems right now in our world. And so overall, I would just say my practice is about relationship and connection. So thank you for the opportunity to connect with all of you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the work you do.
Yeah, thank you. You as
really
well. We're all doing this work.
We are, yeah.
Yeah.
And it takes us all. Right?
Mhm. It does, for sure.
And all those that we help that can reach
Mhm.
those that they help. Yeah, it's totally great. So I
Exactly.
think we'll end with that. Rami or Jessica, you have anything else you want to add? Okay. All right. So thank you everyone for watching today. I hope you check out Cherie's work, and thank you again. And we'll end for there, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.